Which one of you guys took my phone off charge? Oi!
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Phone was dead.
I'll throw down, Bree. Thanks, Hagrid.
You are the chosen one! It was said you were to destroy the Sith, not join them!
What the fuck are you talking about?
One of my favorite clips, and we are back. We are back. ITL is back on a strange Thursday night. I am your host, Ernest Doc E. Silva, here with the wonderful and admirable Chris Connor. What's up, Chris Connor, with the Last Call podcast?
Not much. All I can say is there's people who I know who, if they saw this and knew me, would go, "Oh my God, we've lost that." Any cool points you ever had, you've lost because you're associated with that. But thankfully, the NFL is going to help us bring us back to normalcy here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. I appreciate that moral push of support. It's season 5, episode 32 of the Into the Lab podcast. Tonight, we are going to have some fun, talk a little bit about how you can win $100 here with some March Madness love. We'll open up that bracket challenge and show you what that looks like this Sunday. A wonderful promo from Mark Guajardo, or It's Rated Merc. If you've been following along, if you're part of our crypto journey, that might be why you're here and why you're watching. Hashtag Shiba is where we're at right now. Have you invested? We'll talk a lot about Shiba. We'll talk a lot about crypto throughout the night. If you're checking us out, drop in, follow us, like our posts, comment what you're invested in. Crypto is today's big topic on the side. But of course, I digress. Tonight is all about NFL free agency and the chaos that's in. If you've been living under a rock, we're going to go over some of the bigger signings and some of what we call those needle movers here on this show. Now, if you're enticed as to getting that $100 in your pocket, ITL issues this challenge yearly. We are issuing it out again, $100 on the line. If you want to have a chance, it is absolutely free. All you have to do is follow us. All you have to do is submit a bracket, and you have a chance to win $100 and be the best bracket for ITL's bracket challenge on ESPN. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, take a look at the promo. Special shout out again to It's Rated Merc, Mark, for releasing this promo. And we're going to roll that in just a hot second. So with all that being said, Chris Connor, are you going to enter the bracket challenge?
I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure out, who's going to win these conferences, who we should trust. I'm 50-50, but you're talking me into it here. I might be doing it.
You might be doing it. Have you ever done the bracket challenge before?
I have done bracket challenges at my work, and usually it ends after like the second round. It's like, well, it was fun while it lasted. That's all I can say.
Well, that gives everybody a chance that you're watching. So if you want a chance to win it, here's the promo, and you'll be seeing it quite a bit for the next week or so until Thursday really hits, and those brackets mean a lot. Let's roll it.
Here we go. March Madness. This is going to be a wild ride.
from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the big shoes, check out the crease. Blow like a big foot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him shots in the noise.
There it is. The ITL Bracket Challenge promo is out. You'll see that publicly pushed. You'll have some fun to join us. Find us on the groups on ESPN, one of the feature groups this year. ITL Bracket Challenge. You can win $100, but if you saw that and you flash on your screen, you can win more. You can get a spot on this show through the NBA playoffs, have your chance to hear your voice heard, and you get a cool ITL polo. I have it on right now. You get the logo and emblem. You get to wear it around, show it up that you're part of the ITL Sports Scientist group. Chris Connor, I'm definitely going to submit maximum 3 entries. So you get 3 entries maximum. I'm definitely going to submit 3. We're going to have our big bracketology show on ITL this Monday night at 8:30 p.m. where all the sports scientists come together, which hasn't happened often this season. All of us will come together and put together the consensus ITL bracket, which is what you're trying to beat. Good luck to everybody. $100, a polo, spot on the show, on the line. And we are going to move on to tonight's episode. The NFL has blown up. Our only round tonight is all about the gridiron. The needle movers happen. We know what those signings are. We have a few contracts we're going to really dissect on tonight's show on Into the Lab. But let's start off in the AFC North. And that's right. The Baltimore Ravens are the sweepstakes winners for Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, a day 2 signing of the moratorium. 2-year, $16 million deal to the Baltimore Ravens. Chris Connor, needle mover for you.
A little bit. I mean, it's look. I like Derrick Henry. I think he can help. That wasn't Baltimore's issue. They always could run the ball. I thought they needed to either improve their secondary. They haven't been able to do that yet. I thought they needed to make sure they didn't lose anybody big. And unfortunately, Patrick Queen left. So to me, it's like, all right, it's nice. It's an improvement, but it's like, okay, it doesn't really improve them that much. It's like, all right, they always can run the ball. Derrick Henry is a nice player, but there's a lot of tread on that tire so far.
Yeah, I think the dynamic ability between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is going to be interesting. I do like the comparison side by side. Numbers 1 and 5 rushers in the NFL over the last 3 seasons. I'm excited to see what they can do together. Baltimore all over the place has been basically a ground and pound team, right? And you just fortify that tenfold. It was interesting to hear Dallas Cowboys never even reached out to him. They heard what the market value was and never even made that phone call. So Derrick Henry goes untouched to Baltimore. Among that, also, they did have a couple other minor signings. But Justin, I'm going to screw this name up. Madabuke? Is that right?
Justin Madabuke. They re-signed him, which he is the premier defensive tackle they needed.
Yeah, he comes back 4-year, $98 million deal. That's probably the biggest signing that Baltimore had. But they weren't the only team in the AFC North. Jerry Jeudy got traded for. He leaves Denver and goes to Cleveland. Jerry Jeudy finds himself as a Cleveland Brown, joining alongside Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson. For you, Chris Connor, well, I'll just say, for me, Chris Connor, this moves the needle a little bit for the dynamic ability of Cleveland, but it really rests on the shoulders of Deshaun Watson, and can he look like his prior self in Houston? For you, does it move the needle whatsoever?
No, because, look, I like it. It's a nice move, but it's like, okay, do you trust Deshaun Watson or Jameis Winston to be the quarterback? To me, it's like, okay, it's a decent little move they made. I don't even think it's the best move they made, though, in the offseason. I thought, for them it was, getting Jordan Hicks and getting Devin Bush were sort of the bigger things, getting more depth in the linebacker. But, look, it's a good little move, Jerry Jeudy. It doesn't cost them a lot. It's just, does it really fix the quarterback? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing for me. Deshaun Watson has not been big about throwing outside the numbers, so we're going to have to see what this does for Cleveland. But good luck to them. I do not wish them well. Moving on, the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North making headlines. Russell Wilson and Patrick Queen, 3-year, $41 million deal, go to Pittsburgh. Give some life to this Pittsburgh Steelers. Some rumors coming around on a wide receiver signing coming up in the probably wee hours of the morning, according to Chris Connor, the inside analyst himself. For me, this doesn't do much for Pittsburgh. I worry about Russell Wilson and the inability to throw between the hashes and his size. For you, Chris Connor, does this move the needle for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it's not much, but look, it got bad last year. I mean, you had Kenny Pickett getting injured a lot. You had the Mitch Trubisky experience, which nobody wants to go through that again. And while Mason Rudolph is a nice story, they need a quarterback. And look, if they don't want to draft another one, Russell is Russell at this point. You know, he is what he is, but it's a stopgap, and it only paid $1.2 million. I like Patrick Queen, especially in the AFC North, where a lot of these teams, they run the ball. You know, you have to get up the middle to go after these quarterbacks, whether it's Burrow, whether it's Watson, whether it's even Lamar Jackson. I like that. I like the signing for what Pittsburgh did. You know, you got Patrick Queen for good money. You got, Russell Wilson, and hopefully, they can plug some holes in the draft with, fixing the offensive line.
Yeah, I think it's going to maybe add a win or two. I don't know if that's enough. I guess if they do add a win or two, right, they're in double digits this year. They're probably dancing. I don't know. I'm not a huge believer in Russell Wilson right now. And I know some of you who might be watching this are like, well, why not? Like, he's a good guy. And for some people who haven't been living under the rock, you're probably like,
What?
why the hell are you trading for Russell Wilson? I get that too, right? Like, I get that also. So more to come with Pittsburgh. I'm sure there's more moves. Just Luke is watching, so I know that he has something to say. He'll jump on. Well, let's talk about a team that's really taken the cake and I think is leading the AFC. One Texas team is not asleep. The other one is still hibernation. But let's talk about the Houston Texans, Chris Connor, because they've absolutely moved the needle. A lot of analysts are talking about how this is going to be the trendy pick as a Super Bowl favorite. They are doing things. Nick Caserio has his team rolling. And I look now with Nico Ryans has inspired football and players in Houston. Let's talk about the haul. They traded for Joe Mixon and offered that extension today, 3 years, $27 million, a very team-friendly contract at $9 million a year. Danielle Hunter comes in at 2 years, $49 million, really surprising short-term contract. Azeez Al-Shaair ends up signing a 3-year, $34 million contract for the Houston Texans. And then, of course, Schultz and Fairbairn have returned two key staple points of last season, consistent staple points. For me, the Houston Texans are leading in this conference right now for the amount of talent they've upgraded with. We knew they had money, and now they've come in and spent it, improved their roster, and improved their future, and they still have their draft capital. Chris Connor, for me, this is a 4 to 5 win needle mover for me. It boosts them to the top of the AFC. I'm going far right now. What about you?
I think they added another win. I like the moves. I guess this is where, though, you and I disagreed in a sense. So right now you traded Sheldon Rankins, Brian Chapman, and Jonathan Grenard, and basically money-wise. And instead you picked up Danielle Hunter, okay, I like that, Azeez Al-Shaair, Danico Autry, and to an extent, Michael Ford and Jeff Okudah. I mean, very good moves. Who stops the run? Is Danielle Hunter, as good as Jonathan Grenard is going to be? Look, I like the moves. I think they're going to improve. I think there's also going to be a drop back because defensive tackle is tough to get. And Sheldon Rankins, as you kept telling me, hey, the guy, he's a run stuffer. He makes sure there's, pressure up the middle. He makes sure that teams don't run on us. Who replaces
Right. Right, I get that. There's a hole up the middle right now, right? But they still have money. Houston's not done. So if you think about where they're at right now, they're still double-digit millions. They still have the ability to sign a long-term contract. So I could see them making a run at any sort of available defensive tackle or grabbing it in the draft. They have 8 picks this year. Yeah, 3 of them are in the 7th, but you still have a pick in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. You can definitely load up. And I think offensively, elite. Defensively, you have some holes, but you fill that up. I believe now, I think I've seen enough in the last season and a half going into this offseason that Nick Casario kind of has arranged as his team, and him and D'Amico Ryans are actually building this out together, and that's important, right? Houston hasn't had that nearly a decade. If you had to pick that they plug up the middle there with a player currently left to free agency or the draft, what would you do?
There's not much really in free agency when you start looking at defensive tackles. I mean, it's, your best bets right now are guys like Chris Wormley, Nick Williams, Derek Nandi, who are basically just one or two down guys. Adam Butler's excellent pass rusher guy, but he's not, a big run stuffer. Lawrence Guy is a bit old in the tooth, so you're probably looking at defensive tackle in the draft. But here's a question I have for you. Let's say, you have a choice between a defensive tackle or Christian Mahogany, the all-world, guard from Boston College. What is a bigger concern right now if you're a Texans? You got the offensive line where you're trying to keep CJ Proud, as you call him, upright, not, concussed, or do you draft a defensive tackle in the first round?
To me, if the right offensive lineman is there, you might go that route if you're Houston. But if I haven't signed a defensive tackle, I'm definitely going defensive line in the first round of this draft, and then focusing on upgrading my depth and position players therefore after. I think Houston has a very good chance of going possibly defensive back or safety in this draft early on, just to get some more talent in the room and solidify yourself. But I really like what Houston has done. They don't have too many holes, and that's because they still have moves off and then draft capital as an option. I gotta admit, I'm actually really impressed with what Houston has done this offseason. And as everybody knows in the world that watches ITL, I am a massive Joe Mixon fan. So you better believe it, when those new jerseys drop, I'll have 2 Joe Mixon jerseys, and I'm going to be loving Houston Texans football this year. Well, Chris Connor, today's episode is kind of a filler between the switch of football to basketball, and we go into March Madness mode starting Sunday. But do you know today is Pi Day? So happy Pi Day to you. And in honor of Pi Day, Chris, we're going to play some of a classic SpongeBob, and a shout out to SpongeBob and SquarePants and the Krusty Krab.
Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza absolutely. Pizza, pizza,
Rusty Krab, yeah. Pizza is the pizza, yeah, for you and me.
There you go. That's a special happy Pi Day to everybody. And if you're watching, like, what the hell? Yep, that's what ITL is all about. Join us, follow us, get part of the episode. Join our ITL Bracket Challenge and sit right here with Chris Connor and I. Chris Connor, is that your favorite pizza moment on any show?
I will say this: it's of all the pie references I heard today, this was the most outlandish one. I'll give you that much. It caught my eye, and wasn't. It's something I'll never forget. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I always associate Pi Day with pizza. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, "What are you talking about?" But do you not associate pizza pie with Pi Day?
I do not. I associate Pi Day with the very famous mathematician. That is Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Who? That's why pi is on 314, because he was born on 314.
I love it. That's perfect.
I'm throwing some knowledge out here. I'm actually contributing right now to this episode. I'm dropping knowledge. To people like, holy crap, we actually learned something that we didn't learn in school.
Like, half of our audience is like, what the hell am I watching? The other half.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Good job, Chris. I appreciate you educating everybody. All right, y'all. If you're joining, if you're like, why am I randomly getting this tag in this lot of my feed? It's because you either have crypto, you either love pie, or you're watching for NFL March Madness crazy content. But where is your crypto at? That's today's topic. Comments down below. Any cryptocurrency investment, or if you'd like to come on the show and talk some cryptocurrency, we are all about Shiba. Go invest in Shiba. We are pushing that hard. Shiba to the moon. But if you aren't investing that, Dogecoin's also a healthy backup for us. We're getting a part of that next Bitcoin. Who knows what's going to be up next? But where is your crypto at? Comment below, or go ahead and please tag us and tell us where your crypto's invested today. All right, we are talking NFL free agency right now. We just talked Houston Texans, but we're keeping it in the South. Tennessee Titans grabbed none other than Tony Pollard for 3 years, $24 million deal. Dallas said that was too steep, and they are not paying that money to a running back. They are not getting spurned again. And the big topic of conversation, one of the big topics tonight, Calvin Ridley gets a 4-year, $92 million deal from the Tennessee Titans, making DeAndre Hopkins in Houston tonight watching the Rockets play the Wizards again with Calvin Ridley. Now, this is a dynamic duo for the AFC South. Cool to see Ridley get his payday, but it begs the question, and it was a topic, Chris, is he worth that money? Did he deserve that? He was very hit and miss, hot and cold last year. Now, was that Trevor Lawrence? Possibly. But he still has speed. Was he worth that $492? In your opinion?
Is he worth it? No, not for that money. But look, we talked about it. The wide receiver market dried up very quickly. Pittman was franchised. Then you had T. Higgins franchised. Michael Evans re-signed. And all of a sudden, teams are looking for wide receivers like, well, there's not much left. So, look, that's why, credit Calvin Ridley. He played the market. Waited. I know there was an offer on the Patriots. He didn't want to just jump on that. Instead, Tennessee comes and they offer more money, more years, and he's getting paid like a number one wide receiver. Is he a number one wide receiver? I don't think in that sort of era. But hey, he's getting money.
I mean, this has got to be more about the belief of Will Levis, right? At this point, it's like that's the guy. We believe he's going to get him there. He can do it. It's got to be an endorsement there, correct?
Correct. Look, he has a talent. It's always been, can he put it together? And there's, it's also, as I said, there's not much. So teams are desperate.
Right.
If you were Tennessee, and last year it was, how do you stop him? Well, just stop Hopkins. That'll take care of, Will Levis. So now they're getting a guy who can stretch the field, can open up more stuff for Hopkins. So, as I said, is he that good? No, but he's just, as long as there's somebody who's willing to pay you that money and thinks that you are, well, you are then in business.
All I got to say is there's one clip that describes big money and injury-prone receivers.
As you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
And that tends to be a big trend when it comes to big numbers and wide receivers in the NFL. Let's move on. Kansas City Chiefs made one huge signing, our first over-the-top $100 million deal. That is right. Chris Jones resigns with the Kansas City Chiefs 5 years, $158 million, mostly guaranteeing the rest of his career going to be in Kansas City. Big signing. Kansas City Chiefs loads back up with their captain, point leader, Chris Jones. For me, that moves the needle by itself to solidify them and stay out front in the AFC. And why they're the champs, they retain talent. For you, Chris Connor, was it too much for Chris Jones at this point, or is it the right amount for where he's at in his prime?
I mean, look, I think it's right on. I get it. Will he see basically all that money? No. Will he drop off a bit? Probably when he's 33, 34, probably. But he's a defensive tackle. He is basically the Patrick Mahomes of a defense. And,
right.
when we see how tough it is getting pass rushers up the middle who can also then be defensive ends, they had to sign him. Kudos to the front office. Kudos to Chris Jones for making it happen. And as he said, he's going to be retiring probably a Kansas City Chief.
Yeah, you're basically signing the culture at that point. And once you're signing the culture, that's why it's worth the money. Congrats to Chris Jones. We move on to our next big signing. And believe it or not, it's another $100 million. 100 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 Point of controversy on this show. Christian Wilkins signs with the Las Vegas Raiders, 4 years, $110 million deal. This is one we debated before the show. We debated in the chat. Was Wilkins the right signing for Vegas? I'll let you start this one off, Chris Connor.
I'm surprised Miami let him go. I'm surprised the Raiders were the ones who picked him up. I mean, I thought if anything, the Raiders were going to try to, improve the offense. And look, I know they signed, Gardner Minshew, but hey, I get, as they said, their goal is to beat up on Michael Jordan, aka Patrick Mahomes. So Christian Wilkins, he, as they said, he's now the Robin to Max Crosby, Batman. It's a bit rich, but hey, as we said with Chris Jones, when you are trying to find defensive tackles and not many of them come up and not many premiers hit the free agency market, you go after it. And look, it's same thing. Will he be able to keep going strong when he gets 31 years old, 32? We'll see. But for now, give credit to the Raiders. They're going all in on defense. They're going to make Patrick Mahomes' life miserable. How do you do that? Well, you get Christian Wilkins and you sign him to a big deal and turn him and Max Crosby loose.
So I've got one question, and it's around somebody who's not even on the Raiders. If you are the Raiders, do you make the call for Justin Fields? Does that move the needle now? No, you don't.
No, because Justin Fields, I mean, if you see so many teams now like passing on Fields, like the Vikings have passed on him for Sam Darnold. The Raiders passed on him for Gardner Minshew. Seattle has passed on him for Sam Howell. The Patriots, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, at this point, I think it's clear that most teams view Justin Fields as, a backup quarterback who doesn't read the field well, is only is a one-read quarterback and is not very accurate. So, no, I mean, if you're the Raiders, you're trying to figure out, okay, do we pull all our chips in, see if the Patriots will trade down, or do we take a run at, I know, your guy, J.J. McCarthy, a.k.a. Jim Harbaugh.
I'm going to give you another name, just for fun, since most of our listeners follow this team and it's interesting. Dak Prescott.
Will Jerry do that? Will Jerry pull the trigger? I mean, would Jerry be comfortable going, all right, you know what? We're just going to find a rookie quarterback and we'll make do. This will be a rebuild. Or if you're Jerry, to go, no, I want one more run. Let's bring the band back together. We're going to find a way to get Tyron Smith. We're going to get another running back in there. And Deuce is loose. You're, as you kept telling me, the Cowboys sleeper, Deuce Vaughn. We're going with him next year with more carries. I mean, I think Jerry's going to give one more go at this.
All right. I'm just saying you can get something for Dak today. After this season with no extension, you've lost him, and you get nothing. So if you're Dallas and you have this offseason where he finished, quote, QB3 in the regular season, can you get good money for him, get something back? And is Las Vegas one competent quarterback away from being second best in their division and possibly making some sort of contender status? It's possible. It's possible. Again, Dak Prescott has a number of other big news headlines that we are not covering today, but we move on. Talking about Dallas, Eric Kendricks, Jordan Lewis, both signed with Dallas. Minor moves for Dallas. They're big free agents, still unsigned, but committed to Dallas. I believe everything rides around the extension talk of Dak Prescott before Dallas can sign their actual players. But we wanted to notate that since mostly our Dallas and Houston fans watching today, Dallas has been very, very quiet. The big one, though, in the NFC East, Saquon Barkley shifts from blue to green. Signs with Philly, 3-year, $37 million deal. Also part of tampering investigation. Said it's a misunderstanding. But now we see Saquon in Philly green, in the mean green. Chris Connor, for me, I obviously hate the move. Anything that involves the NFC East where they're getting talent spread across, don't like it. This is not the team I absolutely hate this offseason, but it is one I envy. Saquon goes to Philly. I thought maybe he might be a Texan. For you, does it move the needle? For me, it does not. Philly lost some key pieces. They filled some other holes, but they have a lot more holes on their roster than they did last year. And last year, they teetered towards the end. And I believe there was a culture issue there. with what was happening in Philly. What about for you?
It doesn't. I mean, to me, their bigger signing was getting Bryce Huff, an outside pass rushing linebacker. But it's a nice move. Look, Saquon's a good character guy also. As you said, that locker room was in turmoil. It's going to be like, here's for Philly, it's more they've lost so much leadership. And it's like, all right, you lose Jason Kelsey. Who do you replace him with? That's a good question. Then you're dealing with guys who left the team, from free agency from themselves. They lost. I'm looking here, Jordan Whitehead. No, sorry about that. It's Kelvin Byard left. DeAndre Swift left. You're not sure what's going on with the rest of that defensive line. Who are going to get to fix the cornerback because they cut Devontae Maddox? I mean, there's still a lot of holes, but look, it's a nice signing. It basically takes away from the Giants, and hey, it's a sexy name, and Philly loves having sexy names sometimes for free agent signing.
The absolute truth. That is the absolute truth. If you are barely turning in, that means you missed our promo. The ITL Bracket Challenge is back. It'll start Sunday after Selection Sunday. $100 on the line, a polo, and shipped directly to you, and a spot on this show. Talk some basketball, football, whatever you like to. Join the show as a sports scientist. We'd love to have you on if you win the Bracket Challenge. Again, lots of great prizes. You can go to ESPN, find us on one of the premier groups, and sign up today. If you don't know what that bracket challenge is, or you want to see what that promo is, you're in luck. We're going to play it one more time on here after this one, but let's roll it and show the ITL Bracket Challenge promo that you'll be seeing across social media after today's episode.
Here we go. March Madness. This is going to be a wild ride.
Beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the big shoes, check out the crease. Blow like a big foot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him chatting the noise.
There you go, the ITL Bracket Challenge. Join us today. Find the group on ESPN's Bracket Challenge, the Tournament Challenge app. Go check it out. Sign up. You get up to 3 entries. Chris Connor's entering. You'll have our big analysis on the tournament Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. This time Sunday, you'll see our analysis on this show with Kenny Cotterell. And on Monday, we do a full ITL Sports Scientist, 10 people in, bracket consensus, which will be our entry into the Tournament Challenge. And it's always a fun episode. There was a lot of upsets, so very excited about that. The team for me that's winning the NFC is not really going to be a contender next year, but it's going to be fun to watch. It's Washington. Washington loads up on their talent. They're basically Dallas 2.0. They signed 6 former Dallas Cowboys this offseason, but Austin Eckler, the big signing there. Again, I'm an Eckler fan as well. 2 years, $11+ million deal. Dorrance Armstrong, one of the Cowboys, 3-year, $45 million deal. Tyler Biadasz, 3-year, $30 million deal. Bobby Wagner makes his return to Dan Quinn, 1-year, $8.5 million deal. And of course, we mentioned it earlier, but Howell traded to Seattle, which means they're drafting number 2 this year. That is going to be their franchise quarterback, and who Cliff Kingsbury is going to sink his teeth into and be the quarterback whisperer that he is with that offense. All right, that's a lot to say, Chris. I'm going to rest my voice. What has Washington done for you, and what are they going to look like next year?
I don't know what they're going to look like next year, but it's solid signings. They're not breaking the bank, not signing bad contracts. Look, it's, Dorrance. When you get bringing Dorrance, Armstrong, and Tyler Biadasz, it's Dallas guys who can help the culture. Biadasz and Nick Allegretti, 2 guys who can improve the offensive line because you're going to have a very young quarterback probably playing somewhat next year. We'll see how much Eckler has. It's a safe contract, so it's it doesn't hurt them. It's steady signings. It's all these moves where you bring in guys who can sort of help, who can play the right way. And after last year's debacle with Washington, it's like, all right, we need to do something. We need to change the culture. So they're safe moves. Nothing's going to really be a bad salary. So we hold out until they start figuring out, who the guys are going to be going forward for signing for long-term big money deals.
It's going to be a lot of stats in Washington. I think there's going to be a ton of stats. There's going to be a lot of garbage time production. For fantasy value, Washington's going to be fun to invest in, and to see a young quarterback enter that with a lot of weapons. Washington's geared up, and they have the right coaching staff. They're very intriguing to me. It'll be interesting to see how the pieces all come together, and how those will intertwine. I love Dan Quinn, obviously, from his Dallas Cowboy days. I think he was fantastic. I think he was one of the culture setters for the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll miss him, tremendously. We will see what happens now going forward with the Commanders. Last time Dan Quinn had a head coaching, it did not work out too well. But we will see what happens next. Let's go to Green Bay. Josh Jacobs signed in Green Bay, the new starting running back, 4-year, $48 million deal. McKinney also signs $468, and A.J. Dillon just announced he's coming back as well as the backup running back again. Packers reloading, making a deeper run than most thought in the playoffs. Chris Conner, for me, the Pack kind of stand pat with this. I think they're going to keep investing in their talent, grow another year. They're going to look more mature. It's going to be interesting to see the steps taken forward for their young roster, and I think Green Bay did exactly what they wanted to: bring in a star, bring in some culture. What are your thoughts?
Well, credit to Robin Adams of Wisconsin Heroic Sports. He said, hey, the Packers are going all in on defense. Josh Jacobs was the sexy signing for the fans, but they basically in the playoffs we saw the secondary was getting torched. So what do? They bring in Xavier McKinley from the Giants.
Right.
Who's going to help shore things up. They let go of most of their defensive backs. Look, they're looking at the NFC and going, all right, well, the Lions are the Lions. They're probably better on paper, but hey, Dan Campbell sometimes will probably make a mistake. You're wondering, who else is out there outside of San Francisco, maybe Philly, and the Packers going, hey, why not us? So, look, it's not break the bank signings; it's good signings, and they address both issues on the ball. They got younger at running back a bit, and they short of a secondary, which then was a big albatross of a during the playoffs.
I asked Londo, producer Londo, before this, what he thought about the Green Bay Packers and their signings, and this was his only reaction.
A fraud! A big fraud!
Shout out to Londo, big Bears fan. Hope your Bears do okay. I've been a little quiet this offseason. The Minnesota Vikings signed Sam Darnold 1 year, $10 million deal after incentives. Bring in Aaron Jones, longtime Green Bay Packer, 1 year, $7 million deal. The big signing, the man, the myth, the legend, Grenard himself, 4 year, $76 million deal. We talked about him so much last year. So sets can go. And then, of course, we see Blake Cashman also signing there in Minnesota, 3 year, $25.5 million deal. Vikings short their linebacker position. They look to really kind of shore up their defensive side of things. Danielle Hunter and Grenard kind of switch places for Minnesota and Houston. And there's a new future in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins leaving. Chris Conner, for me, Minnesota is going to try to pace out and fill out the talent, the QB position. I don't think without having a solid QB option that they're going to be much of a contender this year. But we've seen what Minnesota can do with lesser talent as of last year and years past. For you, is Minnesota just kind of standing pat, waiting for their talent to come out in next year and the following as they ride this wave of change? Or do you feel like there's actually some talent in Minnesota this year?
I put it as TBD, to be determined.
Yeah,
they improve the defense. Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, younger guys, so that helps. Daniel Hunter, we lost Daniel Hunter, but they feel that Grenard is a better player in terms of, more upside, longer. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the draft because you get the sense, we have Sam Darnold, but to me, he's a backup quarterback. They're the team that you look and go, well, they might make that big push to trade up to either the number 3 pick or the Chargers pick at number 6 and go, hey, let's go hunting. Let's get J.J. McCarthy, or let's get Drake May, or Jaden Daniels, whoever falls. So, to me, they're a team where it's like, okay, they had some nice signings. Kirk Cousins, they felt they didn't want to go all in on, and that hurt them right now. So it's like, all right, do you risk Justin Jefferson shooting his way out of town because he doesn't want to play with Sam Darnold, or do you go and say, all right, let's get a rookie quarterback and see if we can sell this to JJ?
I don't know how Justin Jefferson's still there. It blows my mind. I figured you'd be loading up on draft capital and moving on, like start the new era. I'm very astonished. I'm going to see what happens there, and we're going to move on because it's just too many unknowns when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings to even comment on right now. But a ton of change happening in Minnesota, and when you have somebody which is for you, you're gonna go with the flow, right? Coach of the year, you will Minnesota. Here's the big topic for you. That's right, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been the subject of every show imaginable. Kirk Cousins signs a 4-year, $180 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons, also part of tampering charges that are being filed. So it will be interesting how that goes. Darnell Mooney, $339 and more. Rondale Moore was traded from Arizona to Atlanta, shoring up what you're saying is probably one of the leading teams in this offseason. Talk to us about why you're so high on Atlanta, Chris.
Atlanta is a team which you look and go, hey, they're a contender for the NFC Championship game. They have a talent. There was always, one of the quarterbacks hopefully will develop. Well, one of the quarterbacks might hopefully develop. Now you have Kirk Cousins, and yes, I've heard, of all the jokes like, hey, the only thing clutch about Kirk is during contract time. Kirk can't win the big one. But he can argue he is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. He has a ton of weapons to play with. They trade Desmond Ridder for Rondale Moore, which is just another weapon that Kirk Cousins gets to play with over there. So, look, what stops them from winning the NFC South, getting maybe the number 2 or 3 seed, and all of a sudden you're going, oh crap, they're in the NFC Championship game.
Okay, I'm going to pick on that because we're going to talk. This is one of our last topics. So Kirk Cousins, the top 5 quarterback. I'd like to go down the list a bit here.
In the NFC,
Dak Prescott, Justin Fields. You have them both above Kirk Cousins.
Dak Prescott and who?
Justin Fields. I'm sorry. Jalen Hurts.
I was going to say you and London must be smoking the peace pipe.
Sorry.
So Jalen Hurts, okay, yeah. I'll give you Dak Prescott. Jalen Hurts is on the bubble with me.
Okay, all right. Brock Purdy.
No.
Okay.
I would take Kirk Cousins over Purdy.
Jordan Love.
Too soon to tell. You have to give me more than one season.
Jared Goff.
I take Cousins over Goff.
Baker Mayfield.
Oh, he's better than Baker Mayfield.
Okay, I don't know if I can name much more than that. Geno Smith.
It's better than Geno Smith. I mean, you could argue maybe Matt Stafford is better. I'll give Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
But you look at the rest of them, it's like, okay, Brock Purdy. To me, Brock Purdy is good, but he has just more weapons. Jalen Hurts is hot or cold. Sometimes we've seen his passing; it just is erratic. I give you Dak Prescott, but Dak can't win the playoffs. And all of a sudden, you start looking around like, all right, Jared Goff, you could argue, is maybe the same as Kirk Cousins. The rest of the South, you have Baker Mayfield. Yeah, it's okay. It was great, but Baker Mayfield's nothing that is strong. I mean, Kirk Cousins is a top 15, top 10 quarterback, and all of a sudden you give him that weapons.
Quarterback in the NFC, Kirk Cousins. I gotta say, I'm with you a bit on this. Maybe I'm just buying into this hype right now on the show, but I can't. I do have a couple of those quarterbacks over him, so he would be right at 5 for me. But I'm trying to debate on a couple others on the line, and I just can't. So right now, I'm going to go with the top 5 quarterback in the NFC. Let us know if you disagree with us here on ITL. Our final 2 teams, Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, we just talked about in 3 years, $100 million. He breaks the barrier there. 3 years, $100 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans comes back. Levante David comes back. I'll return the Bucks. Bucks restocking and revamping, going up, trying to keep up with the Atlanta Falcons. All right, here we go. Chris Connor, I think it's a two-man race right now in the NFC South. It's Tampa Bay and it's Atlanta with a small edge. I like what Atlanta has done, and I am encouraged by what Tampa Bay is doing. They're setting a winning culture themselves. For me, it's still Atlanta slightly edging over the Tampa Buccaneers talent and roster-wise. What about for you?
Yeah, Atlanta has the younger talent. Look, credit to Tampa Bay last year that, everybody thought it was going to go under. Baker Mayfield had resuscitated his career. You had Mike Evans turning into, basically showing everybody what he could do. That defense is nasty. You have Travis Worth. And look, I'm a big fan of Todd Bowles. But it's still a team that's sort of in transition with their offense and defense. They're getting old in some places. They're new in some places. To me, Atlanta's just peaking. Everything is there. They have the quarterback. To me, this is going to be the Detroit Lions of last year, where they came on strong, and you're going, holy crap, where did the Lions come from? Well, here they are.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's gonna be a very interesting year. A lot of teams going up and down. I'm intrigued to see what some of the elite NFC teams compared to the up-and-coming NFC teams are going to look like this year. We finally hit the last NFC West team here, Seattle Seahawks. They acquire Sam Howell in a trade. The future for Seattle might be there. And they signed Leonard Williams a 3-year, $64 million deal. And that is it for Seattle. For me, Seattle stands pat. They're going to revamp their roster, bring it back another year with more experience. And the West kind of stayed quiet in this offseason. I didn't find a ton of movement. I know the Rams added offensive line weapons, and they're going to protect Stafford going into another season. But very quiet from the Arizona-San Francisco front. A couple players decommitted from San Francisco. All right, Derek Hendricks. Here we go. That is the NFL free agency chaos, Chris Connor. So far, I do think it's a bit March Madness. I know Joshua May said it's more like, March, what did he call it? Thought outness. I actually think some teams took some swings for the home runs. There are players still out there that are worth the money, right? You still have the Tyron Smiths. You still have the Stephon Gilmores. You still have the Odell Beckham Jr.'s. Yeah, there are a ton of names out there. Calais Campbell. There's a ton of talent still out there. And I was just telling you, a lot of teams who have been very, very quiet, including those Dallas Cowboys, they have a lot at their disposal while other teams are out of money. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going in the next week or two and how teams start loading up off of that talent. Chris Connor, your last thoughts on NFL free agency so far?
Certain teams have improved. Certain teams have fallen down. There's still a lot of players on the board. This is where for next week you'll start seeing teams like Kansas City, Seattle, the Rams start going, okay, who can we get for deals? Who can we get for not the big bucks? And look, you still have Jadeveon Clowney on the free agent market. You still got Justin Simmons, Tyron Smith, Marquise Brown, Chase Young is still available, and guys like Stephon Gilmore and Kevin Zyder, who could be solid pieces for playoff contending teams. They're all there, and it's going to be interesting to see what they get. Will they get big money offers? Will they take 1 year prove-it deals? This is because this is what good teams do. Like we saw last year. You look at the Chiefs, right. Mike Edwards, Gary Tranquil. Those are kind of deals that help the Chiefs, defense become Super Bowl winners. So to be determined.
Yeah, very excited for the NFL. And that is it for today's Pi Day episode. But of course, I promised you one more look at the new promo. If you are big into college basketball, if you're big into investments, invest into your bracket. And that is right. We are having our big ITL bracket challenge, $100 on the line, a ITL polo, and a spot as a sports scientist on this show through the NBA playoffs. And if you want to stay on through the NFL season next year, but check out the newest promo, credit out to It's Rated Merc. He puts the time into this. The promos are awesome. You'll see these all around social media. The ITL Bracket Challenge video, go to it on ESPN. Sign up, ITL Bracket Challenge.
Here we go. March Madness. This is going to be a wild ride.
Like fire on the beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the shoes, check out the crease. Flow like I'm Bigfoot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him chatting the noise.
There you have it. Big shout out to It's Rated Mark Wilder. Thank you so much for being a part of this show and being a part of this family throughout all 5 seasons of ITL. Go join the ITL Bracket Challenge. It was always a pleasure. Chris Connor, thank you so much for being a part of tonight's show, for being a part of the magic here that makes the ITL podcast. Tell the people where they can find your show, where they can listen to The Last Call.
You can check me out at thelastcallpodcast.com. You can also check me out on twitter.com/lastcall Chris C. You can also check me out on Facebook, The Last Call Podcast, and also Instagram. And always a pleasure, Ernest, having you on being on the show, and looking forward to talking more during the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So am I. And Chris Connor, you joining us on Monday for the bracket show?
I'll probably be joining you guys, yes, just to talk about, what we should expect and, well, how many people will win money because, hey, they have no idea. They're just picking on mascots.
And I'll tell you right now, confirmed already, you're going to have Chris Connor with the Last Call Podcast. You're going to have myself, Ernest Silva, Doc E with the Into the Lab Podcast. Kenny Cotterill with the Hedge Pod will be joining us on Sunday and Monday for Monday's Bracketology show. Just Luke joining us as well Monday. And, of course, Andrew Conn Sutton with the Boomtown Pod will be here. Producer Londo in studio, possibly producer Rachel on the mic for one of the first times this year. 7 of us guaranteed. 10 will be here. Who are the last 3 that will join the show? Find out Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central. And when the brackets are released, Kenny Cotterill and I will be doing a special breaking news ITL college basketball analysis episode, 8:30 p.m. Sunday. So ITL coming at you a lot. Came out tonight, came out Sunday. We'll be here Monday. And then we take a bit of a hiatus to celebrate what is the art of March Madness with rounds 1 and 2. And then we'll be back to our regular program schedule Tuesday after that initial weekend of March Madness. Thank you guys so much for being a part of tonight's show. A high viewer count again for the second week in a row. We appreciate and love you guys so much. Thank you guys. Support us, follow us, like us, share this episode. And of course, as always, good luck to your teams in the dance. And good luck to all y'all who still have your NBA teams fighting for the playoffs. Good night, y'all.